The long off season is finally over, and we return to the World Center of Racing for Season 2 of Droppin' the Hammer Cup Series, finally returning here on the KBueno Racing Network. So glad that you can all join us on this fantastic Sunday night evening here on the KBueno Racing Network, where I am Francisco Bacallao, welcoming you all to the finally Season 2 opener here from the World Center of Racing. Plenty of drivers are ecstatic, they are ready, and they are just absolutely raving to get on the racetrack and get going finally and get onto the racetrack. It's been a long off season since October since we went racing in this series, in this competition. There's been numerous changes, numerous different things going on, and after a big break, I'm sure everybody is looking forward to getting back here onto the racetrack. Here's a look at what we have in store here in season number 2. We got the schedule here to share with everybody. We start here at Daytona before going out west to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway next week for the first proper test of the season with these new next-gen cars that have had their fair share of updates since we've last been on the racetrack compared to what we had towards the closing stages of season number 1. We'll then go to the new configured Iowa Raceway, followed by the Echo Park Speedway at Atlanta, the drafting version, much like we saw earlier today in the NASCAR Cup Series. And we head on into our main portion of the schedule. That All-Star race is going to be really exciting to be a part of and partake in the festivities. And obviously those chase races later on in the season are going to be very crucial. And yes, I do mean chase races, as that's one of the changes that have come with Droppin' the Hammer this season, is that we now have this chase format that will include just going out for outright points over those final 8 races it would be, and whoever has the most points at season's end will become the Season 2 champion. And speaking of past seasons, let's go over and take a look at what happened at the end of last season's race at Homestead Miami Speedway. To crown the champion was a long one. We had Stephen Harlow, Zachary Hall early on in the race battling for the top spot. Hall being one of those championship contending drivers, and numerous drivers in this field are just looking to end season number 1 on a high note. It was a season that had been dominated by Lawson Pio, who had captured 9 wins up to this point, and everyone was just looking to have their own share of the cake. In trouble early for the number 97 machine as Steven Maggio goes for the spin off of turn number 2. Does not bring out a yellow flag here on this 34th lap of the race until a few moments afterwards. It resets the field and it puts us on a charge towards the final half of stage number 1, where the number 9 machine, much like it did for most of the year, found himself out front. Lawson Pio was racing for the top spot on stage number 1 before pit strategies and other stuff took way here in stage number 2, which really jumbled up the running order. Brandon Banks, Cedric Hunter getting into it, battling for position out on the racetrack. And just past the halfway point in this race, we find ourselves with 3 championship contenders under a blanket. 2 DVR and 1 Category 5 Esports driver. Brandon Banks was showing some life towards this latter portion of the race, and was really looking forward to trying to capture the mile-and-a-half dream that he had been living on for most of the season with the success, before a caution would come out later that same lap. Richard Swavely went for a spin off of turn number 2, and it would restack the field once again. This time it was a pair of teammates, but a different pair of teammates. It was Zachary Hall and Cedric Hunter battling for the top spot in the championship, and that's what it looked like it was going to be for the latter portion of this race. Those two with Lawson Pio were really the standout drivers for most of the evening, before eventually Lawson Pio found himself going to the front of the race. Steven Maggio all the while had one of the fastest cars, obviously not in championship contention on that evening, but had multiple wins to his name over the course of the season. Near contact with Brandon Banks, and Cedric Hunter nearly puts the 5 around and nearly puts the 45 into the wall, setting us up for a late run to the checkered as a caution with 12 laps to go, as the 2 teammates fighting for the lead. Warren Kyle Keith spins off of turn number 2, hits the inside wall, and this is where the season all was put on the line. With a restart with 8 laps to go, sees the 2 teammates working together on the outside to try and make this a battle amongst themselves. Brandon Banks, Lawson Pio were not ready to give it up quite yet, but in the end, as he rounded off turn number 4, was Zachary Hall holding off the charge for Steven Maggio to win the race and the championship for his first career victory over at the South Florida racetrack. What a moment it was for the number 23 machine to walk away as your season 1 Droppin' Hammer Cup Series champion, and a moment that I'm sure the driver of the 23 would not forget. A huge moment for him and a huge moment for most of the field as they've kind of focused on that, and now they've had a few months to sit on it and now think about, okay, how do we now attack this following season? And another one of those changes that we have seen removed from season 1 over onto season 2 is we now don't have the stages. Stages were a huge part in how season number 1 was functioning, everything that went on with the races, their formats, and all that. But it is no longer here with us in season number 2. In season number 2, all those race lengths that you saw in the schedule, they're going to be the mainstay for the full length. There's no predetermined caution flags at any point, so it's going to be very critical for drivers to make sure they clean up their race cars, avoid making mistakes, because you never know when you can see that yellow flag on the racetrack. You don't know if it's going to help you, if it could hurt you at a given moment. You're not guaranteed anything, so you have to make sure that you're there and you're ready for a moment's time. Let's take a look at the track we do have in store for us this evening. It's the Daytona International Speedway, though needs no introduction. Opened all the way back in 1959 when Bill France Sr. wanted to build a super speedway here in the home of what ended up being NASCAR's home, with banking stretching 31 degrees in these corners, 18 degrees in the tri-oval, 2.5-mile racetrack that underwent renovations back in 2016 to have the big facilities you see there on the front straightaway that give it the kind of stadium feel, and remove those backstretch grandstands just behind the Daytona International Airport, and Lake Lloyd sitting in the center of all this. Daytona has been the mainstay for many different racing series, not just NASCAR, but you also consider the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series and the Daytona 24, the other NASCAR series as well. You talk Daytona and you know you're in some big company, and that's exactly what winning here tonight could do for some of these drivers. So we'll see who has ended up standing here in victory lane. Last season, it was a huge battle coming to the checkered flag between Chip Easley and I believe it was number 85 machine before contact happened off of turn 4, and it was Timothy Stubblefield who was just there at the right enough time to take away the victory in the closing feat of that race. And he is in the field with us tonight, is Timothy Stubblefield, looking to go back-to-back at Daytona. And that was his lone win of season number 1, hoping that he can change the game here when we unload the cars this time in the field. Drivers are currently qualifying out there on the racetrack, setting up their single lap qualifying efforts, which, unlike most other series and what they tend to do with their dual formats, a little bit more traditional here with just the straight up qualifying effort. And we'll jump straight into the race and see where we go from there. As of right now, there's approximately 25 drivers that are in the session, and we'll take a little bit of a short break, let them set their times, and we'll come back on the other side of this with action from the Daytona International Speedway. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws! World of Outlaws Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
It's good.
It's good, man. How'd you get it?
I got it all through the Wawa Rewards app.
All through the app?
All through the app.
All through the app. The world is my oyster. On the Wawa app, you can get all of your favorites and pick up at any time. Gotta have a Wawa.
Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway. Just off our short break there, and qualifying is now in its final stages. Just under 2 minutes to go here before our grid is set for the night. And a lot of this field has some recent practice with this racetrack. A lot of them very familiar given the recency of the NIS Daytona 500 just over a week ago now, but still a lot of these same techniques and same practices for most of the field at least will keep them very much fresh in what they have to do, how to drive these super speedway cars, not to mention the Echo Park Speedway official that we've seen in this past week. So super speedway racing and pack racing, it's very much in the wheelhouse for most of the drivers this evening. We've seen a lot of it on iRacing over the past few weeks, and once we get past through the month of February, we'll start getting into a little bit more of a traditional sense as the NASCAR season progresses through. We get to the road course racing, Circuit of the Americas, and eventually the oval racing will continue on from there. And as lap times are currently being set down, we'll see if we can have an opportunity to talk with some of the ones that are responsible for putting this whole deal together and get their words here just before we take the green flag. So we'll slide them into the booth now. We have Steven Stempian and Warren Kyle Keith with us here. And guys, this has been a long off season to say the least between when we last went racing at the Homestead Miami Speedway and now unloading here at Daytona merely 5 months later. What was the process like behind the scenes on trying to get everything prepared here for season number 2, but also just making sure everything was right to get going?
Just a lot of good teamwork, man. Gotta give credit to the whole admin staff, Warren, Richard, Kunkel, Alex, Brad. You know, they stepped up this off season, made this happen. I was kind of busy, so I wasn't really able to contribute much, but all the credit in the world to them. They made this happen, and we got this thing going after a long off season. And, excited to get going and changed the way we're doing some things this season. You know, we introduced the chase before NASCAR did. Just want to put that out there. And we're taking away stages, so looking forward to that.
It's going to be a fun time. And Warren, what was your role in trying to get everything together? We know you played a huge part in the off-season role since Steven said he wasn't all too available too frequently. So what was it like for you to get everything ready for this moment here tonight?
Let's fight in the butt. No, it's all worth it. It's fun. It's good to actually, be able to do that. Did the day-to-day running of things during the off season. Now that Stimpy's back, just getting everything organized. Obviously getting all the promotions out there, especially with this No Bull 5 we're going to be doing today. It's a brand new thing we're starting up this season. So it's great that we're doing that. It's one of the fantastic league we have. It's glad to have everybody back, and also glad to have a lot of old faces that maybe haven't ran with us in the last couple seasons back. So DTH Cup Series is back. We're better than ever and ready to go into 2026 with a bang.
We appreciate everything you guys did during this off season, and we can't wait to head down trackside and start getting underway under the green flag. We'll give you an opportunity to go step in your race cars as gridding is going on underway. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Like it.
Happy to have you guys.
That's Steven Sempian and Warren Kyle Keith, two of the big admin members of this series that help make this very much possible for not just the drivers out on the racetrack, but also us here up in the broadcast booth, and they themselves, the viewers that help make this what it is here on the KBueno Racing Network. But we are gridding. We do have a qualifying session complete, and it's time to head down to the trackside and get our view of what the starting lineup's going to be for the opening round of season number 2 of this series. And on the pole, it is the number 4 machine of Daniel Holdcroft. He takes over the top spot from qualifying, and he's going to have a good view of this field as we get going here tonight. And alongside him on the front row is going to be Matthew Perusini on the number 96 machine, making his first start of this series. Going back to row number 2, it's going to be the number 5, Brandon Banks, championship contender and Noble 5 contender going into this race here. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the night progresses. Kip Easley nearly had a chance to win this race last season. We'll see if he can do a better job of it this time around. 5th place goes to Justin Urban, the number 20 machine, with Richard Swavely, who put himself in some good opportunities in the number 32 machine last time out. Charles Van Schaik will be rolling off from the 7th place position, with James Kunkel, the number 12 machine, going off from 8th. Alex Muscarella and Steven Stempian will be rounding out our top 10, with Garrett Walden in the number 43 rolling off in 11th, with Christian Marcrelli in the number, I believe he's listed in the 75 machine. He's going to be rolling off from 12th. 13th goes to Stephen Harlow, with 14th going to Jaden Porter. Made a few starts last season, even grabbed the win. With the 15th position going over to Brad Fulham. Cedric Hunter, one of those Category 5 esports drivers that was in championship contention last season, rolling off from 16th. 17th will go to the number 24 of Warren Kyle Keith. Changes numbers, does for name this time around, with Ross Harlow in the number 18th position. 19th goes to Lauren Vincent, with Jesse Whittington, new driver in this series, at least in this name. Previously raced in Sunoco in the number 94, rolls off in the 20th spot. Ray Rogers, another one of those that was participating in the previous iteration of this series, returns in his number 51 from 21st, with Parker Bland also returning in her number 26, this time from 22nd starting spot. Sheldon Hart rolls off 23rd. David Duran will be rolling off from 24th. And rounding out our 25 car field for this evening is going to be the number 22 of Kevin Roy. 25 car field is what we have here in store from the Daytona International Speedway. We've got one lap until the green flag. And this is one of those opportunities to talk about that Noble 5. So, as previously stated, the Noble 5 is, in a traditional sense, like what the old Noble 5 used to be in the Winston Cup Series. You have the top 5 finishers from the Talladega playoff race last season eligible in this race. They are all marked with red spoilers and even a red roof number to easily identify those drivers. You see Brandon Banks, one of those, with that listed on his roof number. You see another one a little bit further back, and that number 12 of James Kunkel, with his red number there. There's Alex Muscarella, another one of those drivers. And you go up and down this field, you start seeing those red numbers on the roof and the red spoilers, and it makes it very much easy to identify the who's of being able to get this done. You see Warren Kyle Keith, another one of those, and that's based off the top 5 finishers of the race. If one of them does not participate in the next event, then the eligibility goes to the next finisher when you get there. The winner, if you win a Noble 5 race as a Noble 5 driver, you get a $50 bonus. So if any one of those drivers go to victory lane here at the end of the day, they could get a $50 prize when it's all said and done. And the top 5 here tonight, they move on to the next race, the next Noble 5 race as the eligible drivers. So your top 5 here tonight going to be ones to watch when we do show up to that next Noble 5 event. But I don't think that's going to be at the forefront of their minds. They're going to be here in the moment, ready to get things going from the World Center of Racing. It's been 5 long months since this competition has been seeing the green flag, and it's mere seconds away from being displayed to the number 4 in the 96 of Daniel Holdcroft and Matthew Perusini. They're going to kick this thing off, ready to go, with the fans packed on either side of the Daytona International Speedway. And as they enter the United Rentals restart zone, the wait is over. We're green flag from season number 2 of Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. Coming home to complete lap 1, it's Matthew Perusini from the front row that will lead the first lap of this race, with Kip Easley alongside him that they're able to clear down low, and that's now the 32 of Richard Swavely leading that outside lane charge, with the 12 of James Kunkel behind him. And what we're going to see tonight without these stages is we're going to see possibly fuel mileage play a big role in how these drivers decide to play these opening sets of laps. We saw that play a huge role in the Daytona 500 in real life, but in NIS as well. It was all about just maintaining, saving fuel, trying not to go full throttle. And that could very well be at the forefront of these minds. It's all about making that pit stop time shorter. And if you can do that, you can definitely give yourself track position as the race goes on. So we'll see, based on the lap times, how all that is going on. And here at the end of the second lap, Swavely trying to mount a charge. He'll be side by side for the lead. That 12 of Kunkel giving him a great push, and that third car on the outside row, Cedric Hunter, teammate to the championship-winning driver from 1 season ago, looking to continue that streak for Category 5 Esports after what was a solid season number 1 for him in that 45 machine from Canada. But the inside, at least at this point, looks like it's putting on a little bit of a better charge. Kip Easley giving a nice push to the 96 to get both of them out front, with Holdcroft, the pole sitter, down in third. And you're not really going to see 3 wide, certainly not this early in the race. You see most of the field is packed up, those 25 cars. There is one car that's not in this lead draft. That's the number 51 of Ray Rogers. You see the 51 here by himself. He's nearly half a lap down, and actually for that matter, so is the 74 of Sheldon Hart, about 8 seconds off the lead. So not sure exactly what went down with those two missing the draft, but that could play a role if we have a long opening stint. And you're seeing a lot of the drivers already trying to get single file to the bottom. Only really 4 cars are up in that outside, 5 cars really, in that outside lane. And if you're deeper in this group, it's all about just trying to pedal the car, try to take it nice and easy. With the 100% fuel fill that we have in this series, it matches what we see in official racing and NIS and even the real life NASCAR Cup Series. So those kind of fuel windows that you would see on Sundays is very much what we'll expect to see here on our Sunday nights. At the completion of lap number 4, it remains the 96 and Kip Easley out front, and it looks like it's going to be status quo for this way. As you see now, the 43 go down low. That's Garrett Walden that jumps to the bottom. You see that's Muscarella a little bit further back, jumps up to the outside lane trying to take over positions. And that's what we saw in NIS as well is drivers further back, they'll see the line just kind of hanging on, and they move up, gain some track position on cars that are running single file like those you see down there, and then they try to go back to the bottom in hopes of just gaining that track position and settling down. You see Brad Fulham doing the same thing a little bit further back in the 19, and so does another driver jump up a little bit further back. I believe that's the 75. It goes up there. There's the 07, Lauren Vincent, making the same deal go on. So just as the outside lane was kind of losing numbers, just like this, it's kind of gained some more traction, and even more so now, they're starting to make another run to the front. So here we are on board now with Richard Swavely, number 32. What a run it was for Swavely in season number 1. Had some really good moments, others that maybe he wasn't so proud of. But here he is now having a charge to the front. And he's done a good job at these super speedways of putting himself in position of being in contention. And now leading this outside lane to the stripe to lead his first lap of the season. And he's going to need some help to clear that bottom lane. It's not going to be easy. But he has the help behind him to make it happen as they remain side by side all the way through for about the first 12 positions out on the racetrack. And everybody else, for the most part, single file. And very important to note as well is it looks like Brad Fulham will get stuck in the middle 3 wide. Possibly some indecision on which lane they were going to go when they jump to the middle like this. But that 19 will get stuck. And he'll eventually find a gap here behind Cedric Hunter, but stuff like that doesn't exactly help the outside lane as Swavely does clear for the top spot, and so does Kunkel. And they both will move down in front of the inside lane, so that's additional spots that they'll gain by going up to the top, leading number 98 of David Duran now to lead the outside charge with Alex Mascarella in tow. And that's what it's like to be in the pack, pushing another driver in front of you. You don't really see much when you're sitting behind this 98. All you can do is just push and hope that it works out. And monitor those temperatures is another one. You have to make sure that those temperatures don't go through the roof. Otherwise, you could risk blowing up. As Brandon Banks will jump now to the outside lane. And we had seen that. I believe it was the Talladega race last season where Steven Stempien, from pushing, blew up in the middle of the pack and had to give way or you risk causing an accident. But you see this outside lane ever since Kunkel and Swavely cleared themselves at the front. It has struggled to really gain any big traction here. And they're just hoping to hang on here. Possibly looking to avoid going single file. And I can tell you based off these lap times, they're not exactly saving fuel either. The last lap, at least now when they're at the cross of the stripe, they're running 46.7s is this lead pack. If you're going to see any fuel saving, you'll see some 47s or even into the 48s. But right now, nobody looking to save fuel 10 laps into this event. As they're just ahead of this lead group, there's the 51 of Ray Rogers. He remains up on the high side, will let everyone go, and he'll fall a lap down here on the 10th lap of this race. But for now, will be the only car, at least up until the pack catches the 74 of Sheldon Harp. But as of right now, those are the only two at risk of going a lap down, since the other 23 vehicles remain on the lead lap and in this pack. So this 51 is going to try to hope that either yellow comes out between now and when they catch this 74, and that he's not a part of it, or that he could get ahead of that 74 in case the yellow does come out. But this does compromise their race in an early slot. Another thing we'll see as the night progresses is the changing of the daylight conditions. Right now we're under the sun and it's just past 3 o'clock in sim from the Daytona. And this race could very well end in the sunset light conditions like it did in the real life setting of it all. Even with the 125 laps. And we'll see the track go through some changes. The track temperature will drop, the air temperature will drop as well. That'll change the handling and speed of these race cars. And we'll see who's able to adapt to those kind of changes as best as possible as the night continues to progress. But you see the first 5 vehicles have separated themselves, gotten clear, make that 6 now, with Keep Easily having jumped up to the high side, trying to make it work with his Drinking Bros Racing teammate in Brandon Banks, one of those big name DBR drivers that is no longer a part of this series, was last season's dominator in Lawson Field, went to victory lane 9 times over the course of the season, did not win the championship, was a huge heartbreak for him, but he is no longer in this competition of this series this time around. We don't know if he'll eventually make the return. We don't know who else we could see in this season. We don't have last season's race winner in this race of the number 9 of Timothy Stubblefield. We also don't have the I believe last season's defending champion in the 23 of. So some big names not here, but also some other ones ready to take the spot. And you can see as soon as Kip Beasley went to the high side, he has fallen just outside of the top 10. He's dropped back to 11th right now as he's side by side with Cedric Hunter for that position. Muscarella dropping low in the process as well. And I think when it gets this far back, I think this is when you're more likely to see them just go single file. You could see this 8 possibly get into this hole. Looks like Hunter and Muscarella thought about moving up, and they do. And all of it in an effort to try and get back there. They're not really fuel saving, so I wouldn't expect them to tuck in for that reason. But that 32 of Swavely did a really good job of going to the front, and he has stayed there, and it's really made that outside charge difficult for everybody else, as they are now catching the next lap vehicle of Sheldon Hart. Expect this 74 to get lapped here on the trial vault. It's nearly 3 seconds, the difference between a car by itself like the 74 is now and the kind of lap times that the leaders are running, and actually make it more so about 4 seconds with these next gen cars compared to maybe some of the other vehicles. And it is no contest. The leaders will get passed going into turn number 1. And the battle between this 74 and 51 will be now for the free pass position deeper in this pack, as this 51 has kind of settled in. See him right around there towards the latter end of this group, and he goes by the 74 there now as this 3 wide, and the 74 will have to tuck in towards the back end of this draft. And as of now, nobody else has lost touch with this lead group, so it is just those 2 for the time being that remain 1 lap down. It looks like the 74 will tuck in at the back end of the line. 15 laps complete here from Daytona, and Richard Swavely remains to be out the front of the field. This top 10 or so has remained relatively unchanged. You see the outside lane trying to get formed up again with Cedric Hunter leading the charge with Alex Muscarella behind, but it is of no avail, at least not to this point. That inside lane has done a good job of being able to manage the runs, the speed. But if this 48 and 45 can get things going, they could mount a charge, as they're almost side by side with the 6 of Stephen Harlow, who have changed numbers in the off season. Stephen Harlow previously ran the 11 last season, made the switch over to the 6 to honor Greg Biffle and that tragic passing of the former NASCAR Cup Series winner, champion of the Truck Series and now NASCAR O'Reilly Series. And you can see him running the font of Greg Biffle, and so is his brother and teammate Ross Harlow, all in honor of the Biff. As this outside lane continues to make moves, they're trying to get it going, and it's slowly but surely working. They're getting more numbers, and they're getting better momentum. Muscarella's doing a good job of pushing this 45 up there. But right now, they've kind of remained stagnant at the Harlows. Just really unable to get past that up to this point. It looks like we'll leave a little bit of a scuffle there, and that will shuffle out this 45 from leading the group. And that's really going to hurt this outside lane. Keep Beasley goes down to the middle, has a gap down low, but does not take it. And Muscarella instead now gets left out into that third lane. And those three cars, at least they tried to go down in there. And eventually he does Brandon Banks and all of this. Kip Beasley, Cedric Hunter peeking to the outside still, but will have to remain in the 11th spot as now this 98 machine of David Duran, who was a little bit further up in the front, inherited the outside lane near that race leader. This is now down in the 14th spot, and you can see some of these drivers they want to make a move. Hunter continues peaking up high, but just doesn't exactly have the help necessary to warrant making a move. As there's Muscarella now, jumping to the high side, but just doesn't have the help. Was hoping at least one other car goes with him. You see Hunter now peek to the top, trying to get things going with Kip Beasley. And he's just the only wolf up there for the time being, is Hunter. And it nearly manages to work. About gets himself clear, and he does. So kind of island hops there. Now he's trying to do the same with Harlow. But again, with no help, it just makes it all the more difficult. And if he falls back anymore, it's going to be even more difficult. And I'll tell you what, look at him by himself. Just kind of go up there. He's now up to the 4th spot, so I'm not sure if this is an effort by potential fuel saving by most of your leaders. A lot of times, at least on the previous lap, would have indicated so, but what a run. And he'll tuck him back in. He'll be happily now in 6th compared to what he was running a little bit further down in the 11th or 12th position. And I bet Alex Muscarella will take the 9th spot as well. He's definitely hoping for a little bit more to get closer up with that 45, but we'll take it where it is right now, as now it's the number 75 of Christian Marcelli leading at the front, and then we'll get taken 3 wide by the number 23. That's Charles Van Schaik going through the middle, leaving that 75 out to the top side, as most of this field has now really gotten single file from about 12th on back. And Marcini will fall out to the backside of the group. And in this mess, we've had a change for the top spot now. Kunkel to the front of the field with Richard Swavely down to 3rd. As Hunter, continuing to try and make moves on his own, will jump up to the high side. Will tuck back in 6th. Muscarella's not quite done yet. He's continuously going up there, and Hunter sees that. He wants to make these moves. You see him just kind of go up there, hoping he can give him a sniff of the draft. There's not much he can do in his position, but there he goes once again. And you can see the strategy that they're doing. They're going down low, then they go up high, try to use the momentum however they can. And it's worked. It's gotten this 45 out up there. And there he is with the push now from the 23. We'll get side by side for 4. There goes the 12 of James Kunkel, who had gotten out of line. And that puts now the race lead at the hands of the 2nd place start of Matthew Perusini. As nearly contact there between the 45 and 12. Richard Swavely will move back to 2nd. And Cedric Hunter with a 23 behind him, but not his teammate, ready to try to push this 45 out to the front. It's been an incredible opening stint to this race so far. We've had 22 completed green flag laps, no caution flags yet. And if this continues as is, we could expect pit stops somewhere in the next 15 to 20 laps. There's been no significant effort of fuel savings going on, which will shorten that fuel window closer to the 40 or even the 39 mark compared to the 40 plus that we easily have seen with minimal savings. The lap times continue to be around 46.7. As now Hunter has stagnated around there, got nearly up to the 12 and the 32. You see him go down low in an effort to try and stunt that inside lane. But we know that he's ready to jump up to the outside at a moment's notice. The question is, does the 23 let him up? Because he is there, he's got to run. And Hunter does get up there. But you can see he just doesn't get quite the push that he's hoping to get the second he jumps up there. But he does get side by side with this 4 of Holdcroft. At the same time, Herb gets up to the back bumper of the 4 to push him forwards. All in an effort to try and make this outside lane go. You can see right there, the inside just has a lot better momentum. They weren't really able to make it happen. That's Steven Stempian that jumps down to the bottom. And the work that Cedric Hunter's done to try and get closer to the front, being a little bit undone in this moment. As he slowly starts to drift back. As he now is side by side with the 94 of Jesse Whittington for the 7th place position. But there he goes. He has another run. Has some great push there for the 23. That's got him side by side now with the 4 of Holdcroft. And if they're able to continue that momentum, it can get them closer up to the front. And I'm sure that's what he's hoping for. As there you see him now, creeping up. Now he's side by side with Kunkel. With another push incoming, he'll get to the quarter panel of the 32, drag them back. A huge push from the 98 is exactly what he'll need to get side by side for the race lead. What a job by this 98 and 23 to give Cedric Hunter the pushes he needed to now get side by side for the lead, and he'll get another one here, which should clear this 45 of Cedric Hunter to the top spot. And he doesn't immediately move down, but now that the 23 is clear, he will. So Cedric Hunter now to the front of the field for the first time. And only 2 cars remain now on that outside lane. You see it right there, the 98 and the 19. Just nothing that's really going to happen from that position. As you're now riding on board with your current race leader. As they're all trying to look for a place to drop in line. They're the only 2 vehicles not sitting on the inside lane, as everybody's gotten single file out, and I'm sure they're looking to do so at some point in this race. It is a long 125 laps, and if you sit in line, it can make it go by a lot quicker. But some, rightfully so, I must say, aren't huge fans of just sitting and waiting around. They want to go, they want to have some fun. So we'll see how this all goes down, as now I believe everybody has gone single file. These 2 continue to drift back further into the group. And I believe one of our questions that we had in the YouTube chat was why no stages this season? Whilst I couldn't give you the official answer myself, I think one of the decisions behind the no stages was to try and create more natural racing rather than the predetermined yellow flags. Try to open up the strategy gates a little bit on that front, which I'm sure everybody would love to see. Just running these laps without ever knowing if and when you'll get the caution flag definitely makes things a little bit more interesting on just trying to be in the right place at the right time. And you see actually right there, a jump up to the high side. That's Stephen Harlow that goes up with Steven Stempian and Alex Muscarello. They're trying to mount a charge on the outside. That's Ray Rogers, the lap machine, with Ross Harlow a little bit further back. And they're mounting a good charge on their own right. And a lot of that is due to that 88, that's second in line, Steven Stempian, one of the more decorated super speedway racers. Takes pride in these super speedways, and just like that, with minimal work, have gotten their way all the way to the front. And another push here to clear the 6 for the top spot, and they'll remain up high as Steven Stempian and Muscarello remain nose to tail with these other vehicles, and they don't immediately drop down, but they'll remain up high. I think trying to get all of them clear, even with Ross Harlow And exactly so, because job done. And they all get out in front. And that's a huge break for this 51 machine to be so close to the leaders without the fear of possibly going a lap down. Has the track position on Sheldon Hart in case the yellow comes out. And just like that, you see this 45 already peeking to the house outside. He is not going to be content after just getting past for the race lead. If you ever want the POV of what it's like to go around at Daytona in the race lead, well, look no further than Stephen Harlow right here. As he's driving around the Daytona International Speedway, there's his view forwards. And when you're in the lead of this race, oftentimes you're not really looking forwards. You're looking more so in this general direction, which luckily for him is a helpful sight of Steven Stempian, the number 88 machine that's behind, ready to help this 6 machine out in the 10 to 15, or more so within the next 10 laps that we'll see the green flag pit stops. As everything remains generally single file, and entirely single file for that matter. In the moments before pit stops, you see Hunter kind of dart out to the outside for a brief moment, looking to see if he can make some kind of a move, but he immediately goes back into line. He's ready. You can tell he wants to attack and make some kind of charge for position. Just hoping somebody can go with him at any moment. As it looks like it's Richard Swavely that pops out for a moment. And here's the other side of it. Running in second is Steven Stempian. You want to help this 6 by pushing him as much as possible, but you have an equal responsibility of looking out the rear and seeing what kind of runs are coming and trying to relay that to the cars in your area, the cars that are part of your team. For this revamped number 88 Droppin the Hammah car, ran a mostly black and with some speckled green on it last season, has introduced a little bit more of a gray / white effort on the car. A really nice scheme for Steven Stempian, who last season, if he wasn't going after the race win, it was usually some kind of trouble that was taking him out of races. And he's hoping to turn things around in season number 2 and make things different, as Cedric Hunter's now jumped up to the high side once again. That's Richard Swavely or Charles Van Schaik trying to follow him suit, but there's a big gap there. It's not really a big opportunity for this 45 to make a move and get some help, as you see how strung out behind the 12 of Kunkel this group has gotten. And the tail end of this group, for that matter, has kind of started running some slower lap times. They've kind of strung out a little bit more. They're running a little bit closer in the 47s than most of the leaders are. So we'll see what that means for pit stops here. Everybody's going to have to take a full tank of fuel when they do come down pit road. And whilst they're stopped there for the full tank, they may as well take the 4 tires. It's going to be a question of execution, getting on and off pit road. It's simple, just by the look of it. You turn left and brake on a straight line, but when you're pitting going from 200 miles an hour, as these cars are, to 55 miles per hour, as is the pit lane speed limit, in a group of cars rather than just by yourself, it can make things incredibly difficult. And we've seen chaos numerous times on pit entries. And these drivers are going to be hoping that in about within the next 5 laps or so, that they don't face anything too hairy when they decide to go down the lane. And as we complete lap number 36, at this point, just waiting to see what the call is down pit road. For most of this race, we could see the fuel strategy be a 2-stop. We could see caution flags, obviously, see drivers pit for fuel, trying to top off, maybe help their green flag pit stop situation. later on in the event. But if we do see a flag-to-flag affair or shades of it, we'll most likely see just the 2 green flag pit stops somewhere here around lap 40 or just beyond it, as the 45 cuts it close with the 16. Then he jumps up again, and that's not for position with the 51. He is hoping that he can clear Ray Rogers and get out ahead, but that side draft after by the 51 is really going to hurt this 45, as he'll dart in right in front of the 23 and squeeze back into the 5th position. It was a close call. And you see them kind of snaking down this back straightaway. A few cars staying off the bottom, possibly giving an indication of coming down pit road. We know that the tires wear here, and it becomes a lot more of a handful to deal with these race cars as the tires wear. But at the site here of lap number 38, no indications of pit stops, as you see the big pushes that are being handed to Harlow in the race lead. Still no sign. And we'll see somebody, I'm sure of it, before these pit stops try to mount a charge and try and get further up the lead in the track position. With the pack strung out like this, all it takes is one mistake and you split the pack up into 2 or 3 groups, and it could really hurt your chance of staying with this lead group. So cars a little bit further back may try to gain whatever they can in the few laps before the pit stops are made. But now approaching a third of the way through the event, we still remain green flag. No sight of the caution flag yet. What a marvelous job these drivers have done at being able to keep it under green. Normally at Daytona, we have the risk assessment of 2 wide and 3 wide, and we see the numerous accidents, and I'm sure that at some point in this race we'll get to that point. But lap 40 of 125, the risk assessment tells you there's nothing to benefit by doing this at this point in the race, so most of the drivers will remain relatively calm. You see the front get a little bit strung out, the first 7 or 8 cars. We'll see if that's a sign of what's to happen here off of turn 4. No, nobody comes down the pit lane here, as they remain to go around this racetrack at speed. And this is the better indication for the 2-stop. It was going to be tight. To do a 2-stop strategy, they'd have to go to 42 and even 84 if they really wanted to make it happen. So we'll see how close they are to making that happen. And without one steady leader the entire run, there's nobody that really, I would think, stands out at a field disadvantage. Maybe the 6, given he's been out front the most and more recently, but it shouldn't be all too much. And I think most of the group that's been working with him will do so, as there's Cedric Hunter now down the lane along with most of the field, making their way onto pit road here on lap number 41, and relatively clean for most of the drivers going through that. Looks like it's a pack of about 10 cars or so, being led by the 23 of Charles Van Schaik. As into the stalls, you don't want to make a mistake here getting into your stall and getting out of it. And we'll eventually have to watch the merge as jacks go up there, and it's going to be 4 tires and fuel all the way around for most of everybody. And you see what that does to this group right here. They're about 2 seconds now behind the lead pack, and that's just because these were drivers that didn't decide to pit on that lap with that other group. So now they're at a disadvantage with the lead group, which will most likely be pitting here. Indeed they are, the first 6 on pit road, and 3 cars will stay out as a few more from that other group work their way down the lane. It's Jesse Whittington, Garrett Walden, and Jaden Porter that remain out front. As everybody goes into the stall, and there's a few mistakes there. One by your race leader, Stephen Harlow, kind of went too close to the wall. So does Brad Fulham. That's 2 cars that may end up losing this draft when it's all said and done. As there's the first sign of an exit, it's Ross Harlow that's on this way out of the lane. Looks like Alex Muscarello will be the first off. And we'll be watching the blend with the rest of this field. Here comes the 23, and they were strung out. They are not together whatsoever. They've got about 4 cars here that are kind of together. Then if 2 more a little bit further back, but then you have to go a decent way away to Lauren Vincent. As now the final top 3 cars are in. Jaden Porter, I believe, crosses the line to lead that lap. And look at the back straightaway. Look at that merge back there. They're going 3 wide, and the caution flag is out. So trouble on the racetrack, I believe. I'm not exactly sure what the cause for incident was. We saw most of the field on that share of the screen. So we'll have to get a look and see where the trouble arose for the yellow flag to be waved. And that's going to be a huge break for the drivers that were on pit road at the timing of the caution, because they'll end up cycling out to the lead. And it looks like the trouble happened for Brad Fulham on the exit of the pit lane. Trying to put the throttle down as much as he can, gets close to the apron, skids up into it, and the car spins. Close call for Parker Bland, but that spin, even with no other cars in the area, will bring us under the yellow flag. Here's the onboard look from Fulham. And he wasn't full throttle by then. He could tell something was going on, that he was getting too close, but by then it was too late. And the car just spins out. Does a good job of not hitting anyone else or damaging the car in any way. But after pit stops, it's Jaden Porter that's out front. And what a job it was by the 82 to get up in the race lead. Let's see if we can talk to the 82 machine here of Jaden Porter. And as we move him up, and Jaden Porter, what an opening run that was with the green flag stretch there. There wasn't any fuel savings going on, but the timing of when you chose to go down pit road proved to be vital. It's got you up front.
Yeah, that whole first run, I was fuel saving to try to make sure it'd be a 2-stopper. Because I think if you were pushing all out, you weren't be able to 2-stop if it went green. And I just was really concerned that last lap that we stayed out, because down the back stretch we got kind of like split up with a lap car. And I was like, we already lost so much time, and like we're gonna be screwed. And then the caution came out at probably the most perfect time. I don't know if it might still be a small bit of fuel mileage race, but nowhere near as much as I think it was going to be. I think it's, no matter what, still a 1-stopper from here now. So, hoping just keep the car clean and stay up front. We have good track positions, so hopefully we can keep it.
And if it does continue to be the 1-stop from here on out, Jaden, do you think the move is most likely going to be save whatever fuel you can to make that stop shorter like we saw in NIS?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think no matter what, it's going to be close to a full tank still, since we had the caution basically around the time we were making our first pit stop. So it's not as much, but I mean, anything you can save to make a pit stop a little less will always help you. So I'm gonna save. I would think if I don't stay in the lead, I'm gonna save a little bit just to try to make it shorter a little bit. But I do want to keep the track position now that I have. I don't want to fall back mid-pack. So hopefully we can keep the 82 up here.
You had some strong performances, strong comebacks in NIS. You've proven to have some really good super speedway speed. We hope to see you out front as this race continues. Jaden, good luck. As Jaden Porter continues to lead this race now under the caution flag. We did have pit stops. Numerous drivers came in to top off on fuel. The first of those being the 94 of Jesse Whittington, who did stay out with Porter on that run, but I guess trying to take the fuel, as you'll see Muscarella and numerous others. As a matter of fact, plenty of others. Just about everybody will go down the pit lane to top off on the fuel, and this goes back to the conversation of fuel saving. And look at that. That is nearly the entire field that's into the pit lane here. On 1 to green here. An unbelievable sight here, as it's not that many cars, as that's the 74 getting his lap back. Ray Rogers, unfortunately, was not the first car 1 lap down, and there was trouble for Cedric Hunter, who sits 4 laps down and is disconnected from the session, so not sure what the trouble may be, as the caution, I believe, has been extended, as Porter got way out ahead of the pace car. Not sure what that may be about, as the entire field's here, but I guess they're trying to allow everybody to catch up that pitted there on 1 to green. You can see how strung out the field is, even approaching turn number 3. As I'm not sure what exactly is the situation here. Porter driving away. It looks like he's coming to a stop now. And he'll stop here just before the pit entry. Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what the situation is here with this 28. Just got way out ahead of the field. Not sure if he was trying to follow that 74. Thought he should. But it will add a lap to our caution flag. And we'll take this moment to step aside and be back with you for the green flag. Maybe some more drivers will come in and top off again, but we'll take a short break and be back for the green flag here in a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Let's go. What's up? What's up, Kenneth? What's going, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini, I have a hoagie, I got it all through the Wawa Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app.
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
Back at the Daytona International Speedway, where we're getting ready to go back under the green flag. Jaden Porter leading this race after taking the lead as the caution came out right when he was on pit road. Hasn't really had to use a whole lot of fuel, but most of the field did stop in and make some more stops to make sure that they're even better on fuel. Try all about shortening that pit stop time, as there's the push by Muscarella to take the green flag. And a great jump by the bottom, but a struggle really a little bit further back. That's Brad Fulham, who brought out the caution, but by virtue of staying out and not really taking the opportunity to fill up the fuel, gain track position and all of that, has found himself now into this top 10. As you see the field now starting to coordinate up a little bit better now. There's Lauren Vincent jumping to the high side with help from Steven Stempion and Stephen Harlow. And will take over the race lead into turn number 3. We'll see if the 07 thinks about moving down. He thinks about it for a moment, but he knows he's got some fast Chevys behind him. And decides to stick it up top with Stempion, with Harlow. They'll clear. Stempion goes up to the top now. The 07 leads the lap, but it won't be for forever, as the 88 of Steven Stempien with Ross Harlow and the 96, or Stephen Harlow rather, and the 96 of Matthew Perusini find themselves leading the outside charge here. And this group has been one of those better groups at being able to sustain the success of that outside lane in terms of how easily they've been able to make the moves, how long they've been able to sustain it up there. But Vincent isn't done. He's got the push from Porter, and he's back to the inside for a moment in turn number 4 before the momentum off the high side gives Stempien the top spot. And we'll see if we eventually, in this race, start seeing the blocking brigade. We haven't seen it yet, but you saw a big wiggle out of the 88 from the top spot as a little bit of a push gone wrong. The 07 makes a charge as he now goes to the inside in turn number 3. And he nearly clears for the top spot. Does not move up the racetrack though. Thinks about it, but has to quickly get back down before he gets stuck in the middle. And now with that push from Porter, gets clear for the top spot once again. So a solid move there by the 07 to stick with the 28, or the 82 rather, and hold on to the lead. And much like we saw in the opening laps of this race, both lanes are relatively sustained up to this point, as Stempien now has those run on the outside to take the lead back. But this is when we saw both lanes be competitive, was the opening laps after the initial drop of the green flag. And we're seeing it again here on this restart. A bobble out of the 07, gets another bobble there from ahead of Porter. That's really going to stack up the inside lane as he's struggling to get it back going. The 96 jumps down low, and look how many vehicles on the outside just continue to go by. As Kip Easley in all this now finds himself in third in line on the outside with Ross Harlow and the 51 of Ray Rogers, who continues to be a lap down in this race, but now this time the only lapped car in this race. And there's the 96 now with help from Garrett Walden to try and get himself back out front. He's already led laps in this race. Started outside of the front row and has been done a good job in this race so far of just hanging in there. And as we're quickly approaching the halfway point in tonight's race, the second half could see the intensity continue to go up. But I'll tell you this as well, the last lap has seen a little bit of reduction in lap times. In that first run, we were seeing lap times around 46 6s, 46 7s. That last lap, most of the leaders ran towards the 47s, the 47.3 and 47.2, and it doesn't sound like much as Harlow drifts up maybe a little bit too high than what he thought. Kip Easley may try to look down low, and that really hurts the outside lane there. You can see how much they drop back just with that one mistake. But with that reduction in lap time, that really makes a difference as it goes back up a little bit to the 46.8s this time. But all it takes is a little bit of lap time reduction, and you do save yourself some pretty solid fuel. We saw most of the field go in the range of 41 laps, even 42 laps. If they go a little bit easier on the throttle for most of the entirety of the run, you can stretch that closer to 46. And those 4 laps, it's nearly a gallon, maybe even closer to 2 gallons of fuel that you can save if done right. And that's a lot of time that you can save on pit road when you're waiting on fuel when you take tires. And that outside lane has just fallen off. Either some engine temperature issues have gone on here or something has happened. They're still running 47.3s, so I don't think it's too much of an issue. I think they're pacing themselves here. They've dropped back, possibly trying to save fuel in their own right, as now the 94 of Jesse Whittington drops to the front of this group. up in the front, you see the entire first 8 or 9 cars have gotten clear. And that puts an interesting set of drivers at the front of the field inside this top 4. You have Matthew Pericini, who didn't make a start last season. Neither did Garrett Walden or Lauren Vincent. These are all new names to this series that we didn't see in season number 1. And then you have Jaden Porter, who ran select races last season, but went to victory lane. So it's interesting array. You have to get back to Alex Muscarella to be the first driver that really participated extensively in last season's competition. Didn't see a checker flag go his way, but that's not to say he didn't put himself in position a few times, especially on these drafting style racetracks. As of right now, you can see he's the highest running Noble 5 driver, just ahead of the 12 of James Kunkel, with those red mark spoilers and roof numbers and contingencies that help point them out to us and you and yourselves, the viewers. So we'll see what the play is here. As a little bit further back from this pairing is the 4 of Daniel Holdcroft, your pole sitter for this race. Has held steadily here. So far through this race, only one retirement. That's Cedric Hunter. We're unable to see exactly what happened to the 45 that caused him to go out of this race. But he is the retirement, and he will be counted with a 25th place finish from tonight's race. As you can see, that outside lane has gained a little bit more traction. This time, it's a familiar face at making it work. It's the 23 of Charles Van Schaik that's able to jump up there. He's got side by side with the 98 of David Duran for a moment. Help from that 94 machine of Jesse Whittington. They're trying to make it work up here. And now they're up to Holdcroft. So they've got some good momentum going for them down this back straightaway. And you see the run that it's able to generate up to Kunkel, now up to Muscarella. So they're making some quick work here. We'll see if Porter thinks about jumping up. He said he wanted to maintain the track position, but also wanted to save a little bit of fuel. We'll see if this is the opportunity the 82 takes to jump up. The answer will be no, as there's the 23 now, side by side inside the top 5. And these blimp views really give you a good idea of what the energy in the pack is looking like at all times, where the runs could generate from, how the momentum swings. You see now the inside gets a little bit of a momentum swing on their own. Porter gets clear. Muscarella fights back. Looks like the 94 nearly tried to go past this 23, and look how much that hurts the inside. The 12 gets clear. The 4 looking to get clear, and now the 94 jumps out of line. That's really going to hurt things for this outside lane as he goes up to the 3rd lane, drops back in all of this, and now they have to regroup once again from square one. And out front it continues to be this 96 of Matthew Perusini. 60 laps will be completed at the cross of the start-finish line. And a tale as fabled as ever when it comes to NASCAR broadcast. The segment that everybody loves is to grab the remote and just turn it up and listen to cars only. We'll do that here. Let's go crank it up here from Daytona. One of the beloved segments of racing broadcasts when you could just listen to the race cars and nothing else. Just completed the halfway lap that last time by. And we're now in the second half of this race. Still one caution flag in tonight's events with the 19 of Brad Fulham spinning on the exit of pit road after completing his green flag pit stop. And he saw the charge up by the high side and attempted so by Alex Muscarella. Nearly got up to the front of the field, but he has settled now down side by side for the third spot with the 07 of Lauren Vincent. But they're making another charge, and there's 6 cars up there. But they've been able to make it work as best as they can. They've got some good cars that have proven to be the outside, and they're trying to do it once again. But the inside has been doing a fantastic job of just holding them off and making sure that they can continue to fight. As they're now approximately 20 laps into their stints, once again halfway through the usual fuel run. And I think because of that caution flag and the timing of it, the bigger question is, how early do you pit? How early to the end of the race do you decide to bring it down pit road? And do you take a full fuel? If you're one of those that pitted to top off under the last caution, you could open yourself the opportunity of maybe not taking complete maximum fuel. Maybe you could take 18 gallons as opposed to the maximum of 20. And you could shave a second off your pit stop and gain some track position. Maybe even split the packs up. Those are some real things that some of these drivers are going to think about. And if you can be in the draft and save some fuel, that could really give yourself a chance. Look at the push by Ross Harlow, or Stephen Harlow rather, to the back of Stempia. Nearly forced him up into the third lane, but allowed him to get back in line. Once again, that's going to hurt that second lane's chances of getting up to the race lead, which they had done so. But this time no longer being led by Muscarella. Instead, it's the 23 Charles Van Schaik, after Muscarella was able to get down to the inside at the front of the field. And then you see that inside lane getting a little bit of closing in the positive direction as the outside tries to give some pushes. We'll see if that results in any momentum going forwards for this 23, but it doesn't appear so. As now the inside is starting to get a little bit of momentum on themselves. Now the first 4 have cleared. Porter trying to clear for himself here in the 5th position. And at the front of the field, that's Alex Muscarella leading after 67 completed laps from the Daytona International Speedway. And you could expect that fuel window, at least to the scheduled distance of this race, to open somewhere around the lap 84, 85 mark, possibly, is the earliest you can see pit stops. And be sure to get to the end of the race. If you had to go off what everyone's currently doing, they can maybe get somewhere to the vicinity of about a lap 90. Somewhere close to lap 90. So you have a 5-lap window where you can pit, or we'll see the most likely pit stops if it remains under the green flag to that point. As now Muscarella will jump up to the high side, defending the top side's momentum. He'll get in front of the 23, moves back down low to the bottom, but I think that 23's got some good momentum to him. They'll be side by side for the lead. And a great run here off of turn 2 for that matter, as Stempian and Harlow give a great push to the 23, but now jump up to the outside. They'll leave that 23 out to dry, and the same 3 cars that took control of the outside lane in the end of the first run are doing the same here as Muscarella takes it 3 wide through the middle, takes the 23 by surprise, and look at the inside lane just completely dissolve, as everybody that was on the outside lane does drift down there, but they'll gain all that track position, leaving out the 94 of Jesse Whittington, who had jumped up, and now 4th in line is the lap car of Ray Rogers, looking to get back on the lead lap. Did not start this race with the pack, and it proved to be vital in his race so far, got lapped within the first 10 laps, and has been a lap down ever since. A yellow flag would mean huge for this 51 to get back into it, as most of the front of the field has now gone single file. The onboard look from your race leader, Steven Stempien, and you can see he occasionally takes one hand off, and I think that's to communicate with his drivers, with his teammates. You see him get it back on there, and that's extremely common to see on iRacing. Is sometimes you are using one hand to kind of text or communicate with another one of the drivers that you may try to be working with in the race to establish strategy or what kind of plan you're working with on these super speedways. And it looks like that may be what we're seeing out of Stempien, is him trying to communicate something to those drivers that he's been working with all night long. Possibly a lap number that they're aiming for in this final pit stop. Or about 10 to 15, really 15 to 20 away from that pit stop, and when you make it is going to be as especially important. See a charge up on the outside. The 12 of James Kunkel leads that charge. He's got help from the 23, but looks like it was a thing of the past, as a few cars that were up there have dropped down now to the bottom, kind of let it go, let it run its course. And notice the field, much like that first green flag run, this one has been. We saw a lot of side-by-side action the first 20 or so laps. But then after a certain point, it was a fight to get down to the bottom and just get single file for a bit in the laps before green flag pit stops. And we're seeing the same thing here as Kunkel gets down to the bottom, leaves the 23 up with just the 98. And even with two cars, it's going to be a struggle for them to keep up any kind of speed on this outside lane. But checkups like that are going to probably work in their favor, especially when Warren Kyle Keith will jump up to that third lane, and just like that, look at all the momentum they have in their direction. What looked like was going to be the end of that outside lane, one checkup was all it took, and they're going to make their way by here, as I believe that's Matthew Perosini, who now sits 3 laps down in this race. Not too sure what happened to this 96 machine. He was running inside this top 10, even leading a few laps ago, and now he's 3 laps down as he just gets lapped by the field to go 3 down. Not exactly sure. The car looks clean, so I'm not too sure what could have been the cause for the trouble. But besides that, up front, the Florida native of Warren Kyle Keith mounting a charge, has gotten himself up to 4th. He's side by side with the 19 of Brad Fulham, and he's had some really good help with that 23. He's looking to get to the front. There you see, when that car jumps sideways, that's a pretty good indicator for when the push is being given to this 24 to try and get him up towards the front. But right now, to no major avail, as you see Stempien occasionally step out of line like that, I guess trying to give some air to Ross Harlow, or Stephen Harlow, to try and make sure that he can keep the temperatures in check. With 50 laps to go here at Daytona, there's another run. Keith to the top. He's side by side with the Harlow brothers now. Gets up to 2nd. And we'll see if Stempien thinks about blocking him. We've seen Stempien be one of those drivers that can work both lanes, that tries to work both lanes. Doesn't normally end too well, but he is one of those better at being able to make that happen. But for now, Keith looks like he drops off a few spots. And he'll just sit and ride and have to try to regroup to see if he can mount another charge to the race lead. If we're going off the drivers that topped off on that last caution, even with the extra lap being given to the field, there's two drivers that pitted during that extra lap that we were received. And that was the 26 of Parker Bland and the 32 of Richard Swavely. Those two cars pitted and have the presumably some of the most amount of fuel in this pack. If that's able to sustain itself, as it looks like a little bit of trouble for Stephen Harlow, has a bit of a bobble. Look at the gap to him and Stimpy, and that's going to allow Warren Kyle Keith to easily clear for the top spot. In fact, all three cars on the outside will clear down low. Not exactly what the 12 of Kunkel wanted to see, as he is unable to take advantage of that. He'll now fall back and try to see if he can find a spot in line, as Muscarello will fill that hole, but I think Fulham and himself will find a gap there, and just like that, we're single file all the way through with St. Augustine, Florida native Warren Kyle Keith at the front of the helm. And as we approach 47 laps to go at the start finish line, the question continues to be, what lap do you pit? We know we're getting closer to these pit stops. We know they're going to be in soon. But what number is the one you choose on? We saw Stempian most likely making some kind of communication effort to try and establish a lap number. The most these guys can probably go on is probably an additional 10, stretching it maybe to 15. They haven't really done a lot of fuel saving, so probably closer to 10 than it is 15. But the window does open in about 5 laps, so you do have a gap there. And if you pit early, you're guaranteed saving yourself against the yellow flag. You can stay out. We saw that yellow flag play a huge role in the track position game for the ensuing restart, with Jaden Porter being on pit road at the time of caution, which forced the field to slow down, and he's able to exit the pit lane at the front. I'm sure some drivers would be thinking of that, but the pace did back down a little bit that last lap. Warren Kyle Keith, that last lap ran a 47.3 at the front of the field. So possibly a little bit of slowing down, maybe just trying to get the extra lap. But with those pushes I saw in the back straightaway there, maybe that'll change once again at the start-finish line. As here we are riding on board now with the driver in second, and you can tell based on that speed that they're not exactly going completely 100%. These cars in the draft when they're pushing can go upwards of 195, close to 200 miles an hour, and he is averaging about 186 around the speedway, and lap times confirmed this. He ran a 47.4 on the previous lap. So they slowed down about half a second lap time wise in an effort to maybe save a little bit of fuel. And again, the biggest thing in all of that is just making sure you can get to your pit stop number, that you can also take the least amount of fuel possible. And a third party in all of this is making sure that you may have enough for overtime. I'm sure that's not in anybody's mind right now, possibly, but you have to consider it. At the end of the day, Daytona is one of those racetracks where overtime is no stranger, and the last thing you want to do is run out of fuel in overtime. So we'll see what the plan is here for these drivers here as they approach 43 laps to go. To the high side goes James Kunkel and Alex Muscarello. I guess they're not looking to save fuel exactly. And you can see how those two are able to make the outside charge a little bit easier. That's in large part thanks to the inside going at a reduced pace. 47.5s for the leaders on the last lap. This time by, it is once again 47.5s, even 47.6s. So again, the pace has dropped a little bit, almost a second to what we were running just a few laps ago. And that does a difference, especially if you're not using the brake at any point. That will make a huge difference in the ability to save fuel to go an extra lap or two, even at this stage in the run. But unfortunately for Kunkel, it looks like he's going to be the one that gets left out here. And you can see a bit of a checkup there on the bottom, a huge stack up that goes back multiple rows, kind of launches himself a little bit forwards in the process. But I think that goes to show just how off the pace they are running on the bottom in an effort to save fuel. That last time it really went low, 48.3s. So that inside lane led by Warren Kyle Keith, they're definitely max saving now. They've dropped off 1.5 seconds from what they had been running to get the lead. And you see, we've even seen a third lane. There's Alex Mascarella jumping up to the top. Kind of leaving that 12 out to the middle. And it's all in the lap times. The lap times tell the story. If they continue to go around this racetrack producing these 48-second lap times, it's going to really reduce that pit stop time. And at the cross of the start finish line this time, it picked up a little bit, but still in the 48, so 48.1 for your leader, 47.6 for Mascarella, who jumped up to the high side. And we'll see if they respond by trying to push a little bit more. And again, this is the same thing you would have seen in NIS, as Mascarella now gets the run on the high side with the push from the 19 of Brad Fulham and the 94 of Jesse Whittington. Approaching 40 laps to go here from Daytona. Mascarella with the nose out ahead now, as the lap times once again have gone down. They're now 47 flats for Mascarella, 47.2 for an aim, as Mascarella jumps down now to the bottom to lead the inside lane. And we haven't really seen anybody pit early, but this pack of cars is catching the 74 of Sheldon Hart to once again put him a lap down in this race. And this time, he'll end up behind the 51 of Ray Rogers, as there's the 51, getting past the 74 now for that free pass position. There's the outside lane. Brad Fulham with a push from the 94 who will get clear. Will they both go down? The answer is no, just Fulham, as the 94 of Whittington and the 43 of Alden now go to the outside. So does the 96 of Perusini, who would like to unlap himself the old-fashioned way to be 2 laps down rather than 3. But it's going to be a big ask for this 96. He's going to need a lot of chaos in the second half if he wants to mount some sort of a comeback, as he'll now peak to the bottom. Everybody tries to go low. It looks like the 07 thought about getting in front of the 19, but didn't have the space. Warren Kyle Keith gets shuffled to the high side, and look how scattered the back end of this draft is. And there are some pit stops. There you see numerous cars into the lane, first being Mascarella, as he will speed through the lane. You see how much earlier that the pit road speed line is, and most likely possible pit road speeding here for Mascarella, as we'll see them pop into the stalls here momentarily. You could expect 4 tires and full fuel because they're looking to take some fuel, but I don't see any jacks going up on anybody for that matter. So for us, it'll be a little bit of a longer wait to tell if the penalty was dealt for this 48. I see numerous cars moving and his isn't, so I think that tells the story, unfortunately, for Alex Mascarella. A pit road speeding penalty is going to take him out of this one for the time being, and so does apparently this 23. May have also been caught speeding. It's Brad Fulham now on the next lap, in on his own. That's not ideal. You definitely want to make sure you don't pit by yourself. And this lead group has really picked up the pace. They're now into the 46s, approaching 37 to go. And if you pit now and presumably take a full tank of fuel completely. You can make the end of the race and overtime by a handful. Not even have to worry about it. So this group has definitely put themselves in the right position. And we'll see if they make the decision to go down the lane. The answer is yes. There goes everybody to the flat of the racetrack and into pit road. A huge gaggle of cars, the biggest one we've seen pit together, with some 3 and 4 wide going into the stall. That can make things dangerous with different drivers being in different stalls, having to organize which way you go. You can lose time doing so. But generally speaking, relatively clean here, as everybody works into their stall. And the merge we're looking at is going to be with this group as they just get past Brad Fulham. There's the 98, the 88, the 16, and the 6, those same drivers that have been working together. As there's Whittington exiting out with the race lead with Garrett Walden. James Kunkel a little bit strung out at the front. Most of this pack is caught up together. There's Alex Muscarella, who had that penalty. He's on his own, and he's now a lap down in this race. There's that 4-car group. They're going to get merged in with this group, which is James Kunkel, approximately 2 seconds off of this group. And the biggest help here for Whittington is that he has this 96 in front of him. He can kind of draft to see if he can get away from those group behind him. Walden does have the draft of those two, so they'll catch up and try to work together. But there's the group now. They've caught up to James Kunkel, as the 98 of David Duran with the established momentum tries to make work of it on the high side to get side by side. As there's that front group of cars, they've now gone around this 48. The 48's forced them to go up top. They'll settle down in front of the 48. But this pack should eventually close in on those guys. They definitely have the draft of Muscarella, and will start to close in and really see the speeds pick up. And with them being side by side, you think advantage is the inside lane with the draft, as you're on board now with James Kunkel. And if you think that that lead group just would have had maybe 2 or 3 more cars in it, they could theoretically have driven away from this pack, especially if they were racing side by side. But they're just close enough, and there's just few enough cars in that front group that are going to make this pack catch back up. And there's a secondary group, or at least a few other straggler cars further back from this. The 07 of Lauren Vincent, there he is with Justin Urban. The 20 Kip easily got stranded on his own. Sheldon Hart, who had gone a lap down, there he is. And so is this 23 machine, who we saw in contention for most of the night. And there you see the effects of the draft. The inside lane completely gets clear, and they have huge momentum. And we're definitely going to see Kunkel jump up to the high side. There he goes. Doesn't have immediate momentum on his side, but the help will get there. Is now side by side with Walden, the second place runner. And the biggest advantage that the race leader has is that he has drafting help in front of him that could help him in the fuel game, but also just kind of puts those on the outside in a weird situation where they don't necessarily have to clear the line to be in the race lead. Throws a wrench into this for sure, as you see a bit of a bobble by Kunkel and Keith on the outside will force them off. Keith now goes to the bottom. Up to the top goes, I believe that's the 22 of Kevin Roy, looking to make a move to the high side as they try to get reformed up here. And as these laps start to wind down, this is when the intensity starts to pick up. They're still approaching 31 laps to go, and 31 laps is a long time here. Especially if we remain under the green flag, that's still about 25 minutes of racing. So there's still a lot that can happen in these final 31. But you can't make a mistake, or you can't afford to do something that'll cost you track position. Not now. You have to try and do something to catch up to the race leaders. There's Warren Kyle Keith going up to the top side again. Looking to get past Brandon Banks, a name that we haven't really mentioned for most of the night. But he's there. And alongside with is a few other of those Noble 5 contenders. Looking to try and win some possible prize money here if they're able to take the checkered flag in tonight's race. And right now, Muscarella is a lap down, so he's not playing too big of a role in this. But everybody else in that vicinity, they're all together. All 5 of them. See Banks, Muscarella, Keith, Roy, and Kunkel. All 5 of them together on the racetrack, but only 4 of them are on the lead lap. That being the 5 and the 3 up on the high side. With now 30 laps to go. It could still be anybody's race in this front pack that consists of 16 drivers back to Stephen Harlow. And at the front of it all is the 94 of Jesse Whittington. What a race he's ran. Has been up and down the running order, has been inside, outside. Hasn't been the flashiest one of the drivers, but he's been there. And now he sits at the front of the field with the nerves spiking up, with the tension at its highest, and only continuing to ratchet up. With an opportunity to win at Daytona, one of the highest prestiges on iRacing is to take a checkered flag from Daytona in any way you can, whether it's the truck, the O'Reilly car, the Cup car, whether it's the big race, the night race, the dual race, or win at Daytona. It means everything. It feels different. As they'll work their way around the lap car of the 23 of Charles Van Schaik, it'll force everybody up to the middle. And they'll eventually work their way back down to the bottom, I would think. And there they do. They looks like a little bit of a stumble between Muscarella and Banks. Allows Warren Kyle Keith to jump up to the second lane. And once again try to continue to mount the charge. As you see 3 wide a little bit further back, that's the 75 that gets hung out in the middle. He gets left out to dry by Holdcroft and Swavely. There's Jaden Porter, who will now jump up to that outside. Had been on the bottom, just outside the top 10. And Porter's NIS races, both of the ones he did, very identical. Very much identical to each other. A solid start, but before the first green flag pit stop ends up more than 1 lap down in the race, somewhere in the vicinity of 2 or 3. Gets back on the lead lap within the closing stages of the race. And in one occasion, the Sunday night one, found himself leading at the white flag. Unfortunately, very much like Carson Hocevar, gets turned around on the front straightaway just past the start finish line and doesn't win that one. But he's put himself in position, now runs 7th, as the top 5 or so cars have gotten clear. But I will say a lot of it is infiltrated with lap vehicles, and Porter's making some moves. He's jumping up to different lanes. He's being aggressive here, and he has to try and gain the attention of the cars he's racing against, to try and get some kind of a momentum, as you see him maybe try to squeeze in ahead of that 98 of David Duran, and he does, as that's the 23 lap vehicle on the outside now. So that will, for him, close up the gap physically to the next cars for position. The next 2 are Fulham and Banks. They are for position before you get the 48 acting as a buffer. And at the front of the field still remains physically ahead of the lines the 96 of Perusini, but runs multiple laps down in this race. But he did put on a good show as well. He was in contention. He was up in this lead group, and he did lead laps. But either some kind of penalty or something happened to that 96 that put him in that position. And now, unfortunately for him, has to kind of just deal the hand that's been dealt. As you see a little bit further back, there's that outside lane charge. Warren Kyle Keith pushing the 23. Well, he knows that 23 has done a good job of getting up to the front. He's trying to see if he can help him do the same. Not exactly the momentum they were looking for on the back straightaway. Porter jumps up top now. Gets side by side with Fulham. And this time the gap is closed on the inside. He's hoping to get the push here from this 23, and he does. As they continue to inch our way closer to the end of this race now, 24 laps remain. And as this race continues to tick on, your friends are where you find them. You'd like to work with your teammates, with guys that you're familiar with, but when you get close to lap 125, it becomes a bigger question of what's a fast car that's around me that could help me win this race, and that's really the business decisions that they're going to be making here in these final 60 or so miles in this race. As nearly contact with Banks and Porter there off of turn 4. As Porter now tries to take the 3rd spot away. There comes the push now from the 23. And we don't fully expect to see the lap vehicles, not Muscarella anyways, try to make any major moves. He knows the 96 is out front, but he's multiple laps down. He's the first car 1 lap down. He'll take the free pass being in that position. He can't be a part of the caution either, so it's not like he's going to try to be too aggressive to make it happen himself. As Banks now jumps up in front of the 82 machine. Stumbles them for a moment. Fulham goes up to 3rd. As Banks tries to get the momentum going in his direction. A super speedway racer at heart is Banks. Has gone to victory lane numerous times at Talladega Super Speedway. Doesn't quite have the same results to back him up at Daytona, but is looking to put that to bed here tonight with a win in the season opener. And he's going to have to ask Jaden Porter for some help in his work to get to the front. And there you see the momentum now going for them in the right direction. The first 3 cars in line pushing very much well. And there's the momentum. They'll now get side by side with 2nd in line, which is the race leader. Porter trying to get Banks clear of the line. And Banks will now have the race lead. Remember, the race leader is this 94 of Jesse Whitington. The 96 is multiple laps down. But because Banks can't get down low, he kind of has to stay up there. And Porter now will move up to 2nd. They are surrounded by lap vehicles on all sides now. What a job it's been by Porter and Banks to maneuver the lanes, to go high, to go low, and now they find themselves up at the front of the field, quickly approaching 20 laps to go, and quickly approaching a few lap cars. The 8 and the 74 are working together. They've got each other, so they're not going as slow as some of the other vehicles that circle around the racetrack by themselves would be going. But they are susceptible to being caught before the end of this race, and possibly even this 20 and 07 will be caught before the checkered flag. Every other car on the lead lap is in this pack as Brandon Banks gets clear for the top spot. And now it's up to which line does he defend? Does he try to play the line game, or does he stick to the bottom? You see him now drift up high, try to cover the spot, and Porter will give him the push. And that was the right decision at the moment, but there you see the 96 peek out ahead. As a bit of a bobble there for the first 2 or 3 cars on the inside, really stacks them up. As Porter now will get clear for himself. And just like that, they get to the top 2 positions with 2 lap vehicles now leading each lane behind them. And a few more lap cars ahead to catch up. How big would it be for Brandon Banks if he's able to get this win here tonight a few weeks ago over at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Was able to capture a big win in his 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series career that snapped a winless streak dating back to 2023 at the Talladega Superspeedway. Banks went to victory lane last season at Chicagoland, drove a great race. I believe captured a second victory in the playoffs. So he's looking to get another one here, and probably the biggest of them all here from Daytona, as Brad Fulham now gets turned from the inside. The round goes to 48, a big pile up in turn number 2. A mere track blocker as multiple cars go spinning down to the bottom. There you see Stephen Harlow, Kip Easley involved in it. Steven Stemping was around. Ray Rogers a part of it as well. Some cars torn up. Your pole sitter, Daniel Holdcroft, in it. As this is just our second caution of the race, but it comes inside 20 laps to go, just as the intensity begins to ratchet up. And let's see if we can find where the trouble began. We saw the 19 move up to the high side, and that's kind of what the first car we saw go around. So here's Brad Fulham. He gets up to the second lane. There goes the 98 with him. Muscarella drifts up and, yeah, just makes contact with him. Not too sure what caused the 40 to drift up the racetrack. You see cars piling in. Fulham ends up relatively okay and all of that, but the same can't be said for everybody else. Here's the onboard with Muscarella. Just a big pile up everywhere as the smoke then trails out from behind. As we try to get another perspective in on this. Here's the view from Kip Easley, who they had just lapped. There's the turn. And you see right there, Harlow gets sent up to the outside. That's what has him in trouble. As we'll get another view. This time from Steven Stempion. Right there, gets a pretty decent hit late. And that really damages his vehicle. You see numerous drivers on pit road, most of them for damage repair, rightfully so. But for most of everybody else, they've stayed out. The top 8, for that matter, have all stayed out. They have the fuel to the end. They have the track position. No reason to pit. Gives them a great opportunity to save for overtime at that. But what a run it's been up until that point in the race for these drivers to get to this many laps with this little bit of trouble. And while we're under the yellow flag, let's take a chance to talk with our current race leader, Brandon Banks. And Brandon, what a race it's been for you. You kind of drove a quiet first half of the race. The caution flag flies. You get yourself into some decent track position. And after the green flag pit stops, you jump up to the high side and you get out to the lead of this race. And what do you think you have to do here over the course of the final 14 to win this thing?
I don't know, honestly. Hopefully I can get some help from Jaden or somebody. Jaden was working really good with me there. Kip got messed up in the pit, so I don't really have a teammate out there that can help me. So I don't know, man. Honestly, I'm probably not going to try to block anything big. I just like to get out of here with a decent finish. If it comes down to where you have a chance at the end, maybe we'll make a block here or there. But I mean, I don't really want to do anything kind of stupid the first race, and But yeah, we're gonna try to keep it out front. If I think that'd be the best thing to do. If you get back in traffic, I think it'd be very difficult to get back up here again. So I think the goal is just to keep it out front and kind of see where it falls.
And obviously, you're also a part of the Noble 5 drivers, and right now you have the highest track position of those drivers. What do you think it's going to take for you to come out on top and win this Noble 5 challenge for you tonight?
Well, you know how Daytona is. You've got to be good at racing here, but you got to be lucky too. So I don't know. There's some really good guys that are in this thing that are. I mean, anybody here, honestly, if it's even on the lead lap, has a shot at winning this race. So, like I said, we're just gonna keep it out front if we can, and like I said, if we come out on top, we come out on top. If not, just want to come out of here with a decent finish if possible.
It's going to be 14 laps to go when we take the green flag, Brandon. Good luck and keep an eye on those red bannered cars.
All right, man. Thank you.
That's Brandon Banks, current race leader, here with Jaden Porter to his outside of the front row. It'll be 14 laps to go when we go back under the green flag. And like I said, the top 8 cars under this restart all stayed out. That being Banks, Porter, Whittington, Walden, Duran, Keith, Bland, and Erb. First car to go down pit road was the 32 of Richard Swavely. Relatively clean car. And you see most of the field a little bit thinned out. A few cars are going to be out of this race and disconnected from the session. Those being Steven Stempion, Stephen Harlow, unfortunately, as they definitely put on some good shows from that outside lane. And a few others have gone a lap down. We have 17 cars on the lead lap, as I believe they're still trying to sort out the lanes in which they're going to restart in here for the closing stages. But all that settled down. It'll be 14 laps between now and the scheduled end of this race. With a pair of Chevys on the front row, the truck exits to the safety of pit road. And for only the third time tonight in the United Rentals restart zone, we'll be back under green. A little bit of contact between Banks and Porter, possibly some wheel spin, as they struggle to get through the gears in the early phase of the restart. Banks will go high. Tries to work with Jaden Porter. Could leave the bottom open to Jesse Whittington. He'll cover that spot now. As the inside gets formed up early here on this restart, Porter is going to have to try to find something to do with that 43 to the outside. A good restart for the 94. He gets clear for second, so does the 98 of Duran. They've done a great job of getting into position here. Approaching 13 laps to go. The outside with a bit of a struggle for the time being. With this lesser amount of cars on the lead lap, lesser amount of cars in total in this lead draft, that'll change the momentum it can get, the runs that are generated. All of that becomes different with a reduced size pack. And we'll see how that plays a role here when trying to fight for this win, when trying to mount a charge. It may limit the ability of that third line to make something happen. But the inside lane has done a masterful job getting nearly the top 5 clear, and they do now. And in 4th place, the 26 of Parker Bland has put herself in position to win this race. Has had some solid runs in season 1. Something wrong would go on to take down what could have been a good result. But now she's here with 12 laps to go with a good opportunity. As there goes the 12 of Kunkel to the outside, trying to mount that charge to the outside. We saw him put up a good run there in the middle groove. Now it's Jaden Porter that's going to be back there to help, as the 43 of Walden goes to the bottom, abandoning that lane. That puts Warren Keith as third car in line. And how about the 16 of Ross Harlow? He was involved in that incident, that last caution that we just had. And he's back up there fighting for this thing inside the top 10. And you see the pushes there getting aggressive on the outside. Kunkel's rear end steps out a little bit. The inside had a bit of a bobble of its own. Gives the momentum to this 42, or this 12 rather, to the 82 behind, giving him a great shot. 2 great possibly with how much of a wiggle you saw out of that 12 going through turn 2. As they now go down the back straightaway here. Still have some work to do if they want to get up to Brandon Banks, who continues to lead here from Jesse Whittington and David Duran. And if you're those two, a big question would be is when do you make your move? You have to jump up to the high side, and I think for the 32 of Richard Swavely, that was the now. The 5th place runner, and Parker Bland agrees. She goes up to the top, but that really hurts the outside lane. But at the same time, the inside struggles again with momentum. So that's going to help. That's going to buy the outside lane a chance. It caught them a break, and now the 26 tries to lead to get the momentum towards the front. And the pushes are only going to continue to get more intense as the laps continue to wind down. Justin Erb has managed to slide in front of Jaden Porter, loses the track position. There goes to the high side Brad Fulham. Part of the first caution tonight when exiting pit road. Finds himself in the top 5, has ran there ever since. And Ross Harlow has driven his way up into the top 4 by just sticking to the bottom, as that outside lane has really struggled ever since those cars have jumped up there. And now what can they do from this top 5 position? With Garrett Walden and Charles Van Schaik, who's driven his way back from a lap down earlier. As they go 3 wide, that's James Kunkel in the middle. That's not going to help the outside lane whatsoever. As the 23 ends up in the outside wall, really slowing down in front of the field, and you have to scurry to get around him. That was a big moment there in the pack as Porter now goes back up to the high side with 8 laps to go. They're going to have to mount something soon here as he'll tuck back down in the bottom. A big push by Holdcroft, who did not want to let that 82 in. Forces Porter back to the high side. Trying to figure out where he stands in all of this. Has the push now from Kunkel, whose front end is a little bit dented in on that Mustang. As it looks like a little bit further up, some moves are being made. That's Garrett Walden has jumped up to the outside lane. That'll put David Duran in 3rd. And that's the 96 machine of Matthew Parasini, who still sits 3 laps down in this race, but can play a huge role to this outside lane if he can deliver some good pushes. And what you're seeing Brandon Banks do here at the front is a really smart move. He's allowing that 2nd place driver of the 94 to get clean air in the corners. That'll really allow him to push down the straightaways. And that'll keep that inside lane clear for the most part, making it very difficult for the outside lane to mount some sort of a challenge. And 3 wide now to the outside, a little bit further back in the pack. That was the 12 that got stuck at the very top. As now jumping up to the outside, I believe that was the 43 again, just kind of bobbling through. Only really 4 or 5 cars maybe. As now 13 or so cars remain in this lead draft here. Approaching 5 laps to go. It's game on. You have to do whatever you can to go up there to try and win the race for yourself. And that's going to mean jumping up to the 2nd line and mounting a charge. And trying to mount it the right way. These drivers, at least in this run, have struggled to make it work. But they're going to have to. And they're not going to be done dealing with lap cars. It appears Alex Muscarella is the next car that the leaders will catch. Or not Muscarella, but rather Kip Easley. He'll give way now to the inside. Goes well off the racetrack as a little bit of a trouble and a wreck behind. The 94 goes for a spin. Look, or actually the 22 of Kevin Roy, one of those that goes for the spin for the back. Warren Kyle Keith, and the 24 was sideways as well. James Kunkel around on the back straightaway. And our third yellow flag of the night flies here with 5 laps to go. And it will put us into Droppin the Hammah overtime. And they had been getting antsy for a few laps. As here's the replay. It looks like the trouble happens a little bit further up ahead with Muscarella, as they all started to spin down towards the now paved section of the backstretch Lamar chicane. No longer grass down there between the racing surfaces, so we'll try to get a better look at where the 48 was to better establish what happened. He was on the inside lane. And I'm not really sure. It looks like maybe some contact with the 96. We try to get a better angle of it, because it was very difficult to see just exactly what led to it. Here's the onboard look from Parasini. There's Muscarella on the inside, and oh, right there, yeah, just a bump draft gone wrong, pushes the 43 and sends the 43 down into Muscarella. That's what set the whole thing off to begin with. Collecting a few other cars, nothing too damaging, it appears, for most of the field. So we could see almost everybody stay out here. Even if you have some minor damage, I think you're better off just staying out like that 4 car does. Your pole sitter, Daniel Holdcroft, with a little bit of left front and right front damage, but that's not something you're going to pit for here on the verge of overtime. And whilst we have this opportunity to talk about overtime, let's quickly go over what the rules for overtime are. Should the leader take the white flag under green, we will race it back to the checkered no matter what. If the caution flag waves before the white flag is received, we will rack it up and do it again. We will try to do it as most up to 3 times. If on the 3rd and final attempt of the restart, should the caution flag wave, the leader at the time of caution will be determined to be the race winner here from the World Center of Racing. So track position is going to matter immensely, and getting a good restart is going to matter just as much. And the intensity is going to continue to ratchet up. What do you do for a win at Daytona? And for Brandon Banks, for that matter, most of his competition in regards to the Noble 5 kind of got wiped out in that one, or at least sent back in track position wise. You have to think about the 24, Warren Kyle Keith. There he is now exiting pit road. James Kunkel, who also had received damage, back in the 15th position. I believe that one of the next highest running drivers for this was Alex Muscarella. And there he is, still sitting 1 lap down in this race after being involved in that accident. So for Banks, as long as he doesn't make some kind of major mistake, which he hopes he doesn't either, it could be a huge opportunity, not just to be the highest finishing Noble 5 driver and win that challenge, but if the Noble 5 driver wins the race, that's $50. And I know Banks said he wants to prioritize the points, but I mean, you take the money when you can. It's not $50,000, which I'm sure everyone would wish it was, but you certainly would take the money, whether it's iRacing credits or any kind of Zelle or PayPal payments. You'll take that either way. That's $50 that doesn't have to come out of your pocket, that you have to be employed for, that you can spend it on whatever you may please. I wish I was there with an opportunity to win $50 right now, but plenty of of this race still yet to happen. And how about the cast of characters we have here? Brandon Banks trying to take this race win here tonight. Jesse Whittington looking for his first career win. Ross Harlow, who we saw be contentious last season as well, having taken the win, I believe, at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. There's the 98. David Durand also looking for his first career win. Lauren Vincent, who almost went a lap down just before the timing of one of the more recent yellows, finds himself in the top 5. Pole sitter Daniel Holdcroft, Garrett Walden, Christian Marasili, Parker Bland, and Jaden Porter make this top 10. There are 18 drivers currently listed on the lead lap, any one of which can still win this race. With 2 laps remaining, at the time of the green flag, we'll be taking our first attempt of overtime here on the KBueno Racing Network. It'll be Banks and Whittington on the front row for this restart. As into the restart zone we go, back under green. Not a great restart for that 94 on the outside. Struggles to get going. Durand will clear for second. And Lauren Vincent with the opportunity to possibly get up to third. It wasn't a good initial launch, but that 94 now has the help behind him as the 75 blinks on the bottom. That's not going to help the inside lane generate any forward momentum. Here comes Whittington on the outside. Not much they can do, as now the top 5 get clear. It's Porter, who restarted 10th. Now sitting in 5th, coming to the white flag. They're 3 wide, nearly 4 wide further back, but we do get there, so this race is official. Brad Fulham looks to get to the outside, but here comes Swavely behind the 82 as Brandon Banks will lead them there. 1 lap left in this race, 1 more opportunity for these drivers to make something of whatever they can. There goes Porter now jumping to the high side, trying to get the side draft. He's going to have to help from the number 12 to try and push him up towards the front. But with that blinking 75 to the inside, it's going to make things very difficult for everybody else. What can David Durand and Lauren Vincent do here off of turn 4? There come the pushes. There they go. To the inside, to the outside, and it's going to be Brandon Banks winning at Daytona. Brandon Banks has done it. He wins at Daytona, holding off everybody to the line, and takes home the $50. Unbelievable job to hold on from the front of the field, was not allowing anyone to get near him. And Lauren Vincent came up 5/100ths of a second off from being able to take the win. Ross Harlow comes home with the top 5. Some good stories, really, up and down the top 5 here and the top 10. But all eyes lay, rightfully so, on the Valvoline Chevrolet of Brandon Banks. Wastes less time than he did last season, which was already pretty quick enough to go to victory lane. And he'll go out to the front straightaway of the Daytona International Speedway, right by the starter stand, and celebrate in Paul's setup shop victory lane. What a moment here for the driver of the 5 a super speedway driver at heart that has had so much success at the Talladega Super Speedway, but has not been as equally recipient of the success here at Daytona, finally gets the one for him at the World Center of Racing as he continues to celebrate in the trioval. Let's see if we can rewind and watch back that final lap. It was a pretty intense one at that, with everything that they were trying to mount to try and win this race. And let's see if we can look back at it once again. And here they are approaching the white flag. There's the 07. You saw the move there. Brad Fulham tried to go to the outside of Porter, and the outside lane just never really seemed like they could get established, not in any proper way. That restart definitely didn't help their cause. There goes Richard Swavely looking to the outside, kind of strings out that top 5. As there now, Porter goes to the outside, and you're going to see this 75 just occasionally blink. Doesn't allow Porter to go down low, but it also is just there enough to stall out those other two. But also the front 3 just did a fantastic job of defending by just pushing outright. And as they're going 3 wide for whatever position they can here off of turn 4, there they go. Looking to the outside was Lauren Vincent. And as they come across the stripe, it was all for second because Brandon Banks had no major worries and safely comes across the line by just under half a tenth of a second to take home his first win in season number 2 of the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. We'll take this opportunity to go through our unofficial race results here tonight from the World Center of Racing, where it's Brandon Banks picking up the win here in an astonishing fashion to come up clutch here in the closing stages of the race, with Lauren Vincent taking home a second place finish, just barely ahead of David Duran, who caps off a podium effort here tonight. Ross Harlow finishes in the 4th spot, with Christian Marsili in the 5th place position. A nice top 5 effort here for the 75. Kevin Roy will finish in the 6th position after being involved in that last caution. Justin Irv will finish in 7th. Jaden Porter finishes in the 8th place position. James Kunkel, through all that, will finish in 9th. And Parker Bland will round out our top 10 drivers for the evening. Jesse Whittington will finish in 11th, with Garrett Walden in the 12th place position. Richard Swavely will finish 13th, was out front for a good portion of this race. So was Charles Van Schaik, as he'll finish in the 14th spot, with Brad Fulham in 15th. Sheldon Hart will finish 16th on the lead lap after spending a majority of the race under the lead lap. Daniel Holdcroft, your pole sitter, will finish 17th. Warren Kalkeith rounds out your lead lap finishers at 18th, with Kip Easley in 19th, and Alex Muscarella rounding out the top 20. And rounding out our 25 car field here tonight, we have Matthew Perusini, the 6 of Stephen Harlow, Steven Stempian, Ray Rogers, and Cedric Hunter will round out our 25 car field here tonight from Daytona. What a finish. What an opportunity. What a moment. And let's cap this off by talking with the driver who's standing in victory lane in Brandon Banks here from Daytona Victory Lane. Brandon, we talked to you before one of those restarts, and you told me you didn't want to really do anything too outrageous to try and win this race, but in that final restart, you really didn't have to. It looks like everybody was just battling each other for second. You were just kind of able to hold the bottom and take the win. What was going through your mind there on that final restart?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is I just didn't want to get out too far. Just make sure that we just kind of maintain that gap there, so we didn't get just run over. David did a really good job of just staying right there with me. I appreciate what he did there. He could have probably left me out and really messed me up there, coming probably off a 3 and probably could have drove right by me. But appreciate that for him. I definitely owe him one. But yeah, that was kind of I felt like once we got out there far enough on that first lap to where we didn't have the outside lane, just sitting right on top of us, we actually could race a little bit there at the end. And I don't know if he got bunched up a little bit coming toward the checkered flag there and he couldn't really make a move or what happened. I need to go back and look at it, but Yeah, all in all, it's a good race, man. This league is going to be, if it races like this all the time, it's going to be awesome, man. Not having to worry about stages, you can get some long runs in, get some green flag pit stops in, actually spread the field out and actually race. That's going to be awesome. So looking forward to it. Um, you know, it's good to come away with a victory at the very beginning, get some momentum going into the next race, and like I said, I you know appreciate David them for pushing me like they did, man. He did a heck of a job there.
Did a good job there to get you in victory lane and take home victory, the Noble 5 prize. $50 here at the end of the evening by winning this race as a part of a Noble 5 driver. So not only do you take home that prize, you're also eligible for when we do go to that the next show, which I believe is the Talladega Super Speedway race, the next Noble 5 event. So you'll be eligible for it there too.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I really didn't think about it honestly. I didn't. I did. I was talking to Kip and I was like, man, you know what? I got a chance at winning some money tonight. I completely forgot about it until I saw Warren's paint and I was like, if we got a chance at it, we'll take it. And like I said, appreciate David there for doing that. And Talladega is another decent track for us. It's good that we're qualified for that, and maybe be able to do it again. But I mean, these restrictor plates are tough. I mean, a lot of these guys in here are really good at running these types of tracks. So it's just going to be trying to stay out of the trouble there and just trying to get to the end of the race. These races are a little longer than what we're normally used to as far as some of our league races. So I think it works out in our favor. But at the same time, you got a lot to think about throughout the race. You got a lot of things that could happen. Just making sure that you don't make any mistakes because aren't gonna these guys aren't gonna let you capitalize off anything. If you make a little bit of mistake, they're just gonna run away from you. So, um, like I said, we'll take this momentum into next week. I think we got Vegas next, another decent track for us. Um, Looking forward to racing again next week, and I don't know, maybe just kind of keeping this momentum going into Vegas.
I do want to apologize. It is Charlotte that is the next Noble 5 race, and
Oh,
that's the one that you'll be locked into. So my apologies, I'm giving any false
okay.
hope, but I did want to clarify
Yeah.
that one up before we finish this interview here, Brandon. But
Oh, no.
before we let you go for this evening after this
Oh.
fantastic win, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the whole 5 team?
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys doing the broadcast. You guys are awesome. One of the best broadcast crews I've ever seen on here. So appreciate everything you guys do. You and Kenneth and everybody that does all this. I mean, awesome job. DTH for putting on the league, Stempian and all the admins that do all the hard work in the background that we don't ever have to worry about. Appreciate him. Of course, Kip. He had a little bit of trouble tonight with DBR here, but I mean he's going to be good this year. He's got a good car. He just made a little bobble in the pits, and that's all it took. So he'll be fine. He'll bounce back, and but yeah, I mean I appreciate everybody. Thanks to David again. Like I said, I can't thank him enough for pushing me like he did. Like I said, he could have left me and he didn't. So thanks to him, and like I said, we'll go on next week and just kind of carry this momentum into Vegas, and just kind of be happy about what we get tonight and worry about that next week.
We wish you the best of luck going forward, Brandon. Congratulations on the win and on the prize money here tonight from the World Center of Racing. The biggest congratulations to you, the whole race team, and everybody watching.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Brandon Banks, winner here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. What a fantastic job it was for him to take the checkered flag. Finishing second in tonight's race was the '07 of Lauren Vincent, and we're going to be caught up with him here in a moment. Is our runner-up finisher, Lauren Vincent. And Lauren, you put yourself in a decent position there in the closing stages of the race, but you just didn't quite get it to work. Looks like the outside lane was struggling to get going in the right direction. What more did you think you needed to try and go out there and win that race?
I'm not for sure, to be honest with you. I did everything I could. Kind of backed off a little bit in 3 and 4, trying to build up that run to get around to the outside. It just wasn't in the cards tonight.
And you put up a really solid performance there. You were in the pack. You were making some really good moves. You nearly went a lap down prior to that yellow flag coming out in the later stages of the race, but you recovered nicely. What was it like racing against this pack, this group of drivers for the first time proper this season?
It was a lot of fun. That was a good clean race. A lot cleaner than I thought for Daytona. I was expecting a little bit more cautious than that, but good group of guys and good hard clean racing.
And with this, we now go shift their focus now to Las Vegas Motor Speedway next week, which is a completely different style of racing than what we see here from the World Center of Racing. What do you think is going to be the biggest takeaway from here that you can try to use at Las Vegas if you can at all?
I'm gonna try everything I can to keep the momentum going for me and the team, and hopefully just keep grinding out good finishes.
And before we let you go from the second place finish here tonight, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for the entire 017?
Uh, Thank you guys first of all for putting on a good broadcast and everything. The admin crew for working hard behind the scenes on everything that we don't get told. Uh, all the racers that came up and showed up tonight. It was a lot of fun.
We appreciate the time you take with us, Lauren. Congratulations on this podium effort here from Daytona. We do hope to see you out at Las Vegas.
Thank you.
That's Lauren Vincent, second place finisher here tonight from the World Center of Racing. Was looking to try and get at least one more spot in it, but just wasn't in it for the cards here tonight. We do have one more driver to interview, and that's going to be our third place finisher, and David Duran. And David, you also ran a fairly decent race. You led some laps in it. You were up front. You were battling back. You were trying to make the outside work, and yeah, ultimately you ended up just a few spots short of the win. What do you think you needed to go differently on that final restart to come away with the checkered flag? And I'm not too positive we may have David Duran. We'll double check again. David, do you have us here in the booth?
I do.
Ah, so you ran a pretty solid race here, David. You were running up in the front. You had fallen back to the back, but you had driven your way up through the 24th place starting position and nearly got yourself a chance to win this race. What do you think needed to go differently in that final restart for you to possibly would go out there and win?
Um, I would probably say is maybe be a little more aggressive. I mean, I don't know most of these guys in this league, so I just not sure if if the 07 would have went with me if I made a move on Banks, or like potentially would have caused a wreck and ruin some other guys' nights as well. So I know I don't like playing it safe, and because I like being aggressive and trying to make smart moves and not trying to uh, cause a wreck, and especially unnecessary, especially when it comes to the last handful of laps. I did on that last restarting. I did everything right, besides making a move on Banks. I stayed with him the whole way. I raced him in the past, so I know how he operates. So I just didn't know if anyone else was going to go with me. Wasn't really comfortable in making that move because like I said, you just don't know. But I think all in all, I mean, like I said, like you said, driving from the back to the front on many occasions. Just a lot of guys didn't want to work with me. I guess I'm not sure why. Most people are just trying to play it safe and just let the race play out. I guess uh, it is what it is to me. I'm happy to take third. So boom, that's how I see it.
Still a really good, solid outing for you in this 98. And you said it was your first time racing against this group of drivers. So obviously, the super speedway, it's probably one of the more difficult places to learn. But next week, we do go out to Las Vegas, which is a more traditional racetrack, the amount and a half racetrack, the types that we normally see through most of the schedule. How do you think that you'll fare there when we unload to that more style of racetrack?
I just think, I mean, I love the mile and a halves on the next gen. And it's just going to be a lot of patience and just let the car come to me at that point. So I really feel pretty confident running over there. Hopefully for another solid outing. So I mean, there's been a few guys I've raced before in previous leagues. So, but like I say, maybe 2/3 of this league, I'm not familiar how their driving style is. So I guess, like I said, I'll give it a couple weeks, see how people operate and how they take care of their stuff, and then we'll know and to be aggressive or not be aggressive around certain guys. So, but all in all, take a third place finish, and we'll see what happens in Vegas next week.
And before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the whole 98 team?
Just well, I think Brandon Banks for just staying with me right there. I've good relationship with him. He's a cool dude, and I'm happy he stayed in the bottom. And I'm happy to push him to win tonight. So shout out to him. So it was a pleasure racing with him and all the other guys here tonight. So we'll take a third place finish and we'll move out next week.
Congratulations on the podium effort here tonight for the World Center of Racing, David, and we hope to see you out at Las Vegas.
Thank you, sir.
As David Duran, third place finisher here tonight from the World Center of Racing, was sitting second, approaching turn 4 on the final lap. What an opening race it was here from the Daytona International Speedway. Relatively clean, not that many caution flags until obviously the end of the race, but that's to be expected when you're starting to get into the zone to start going for the race win. And we'll get to do it all again next Sunday from the uh, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Kenneth Bueno will be on the call for that one. He'll be back in the booth. I've done a good portion of the heavy lifting here over the past month and a half, but I'm happy to cover for him any single time possible. But it'll be good to have the good old KB back where he belongs on the broadcast stand of these races, and we'll see him back here next week. And there you see the schedule, the greater outlook going forwards. We have the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as previously mentioned, 200 laps. I'm hoping to see if I can get home in time from the St. Pete race to maybe participate in that one, but that might be a little bit too close to call for me. So we'll keep an eye out there going forwards. Then we head on out to the cornfields of Iowa for the weekend after to go short track racing. Then we go super speedway racing again at the Echo Park Speedway at Atlanta, North Wilkesboro for some more short track action before we continue to the mile and a half of Texas Auto Club, and then the All-Star Race and Coke 600, if you will, uh, in that combination over at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which is our next Noble 5 event, which our top 5 finishers for tonight did qualify. For reference, that is Brandon Banks, Lauren Vincent, David Duran, Ross Harlow, and Christian Mars Macarelli. I definitely mispronounced that, Macarelli. Those 5 drivers will be in a part of the next one going forwards at Charlotte, so we'll see them with the red numbers, with the red spoilers, and all that sort of stuff to indicate a chance at the $50 and possible eligibility for the next one, which will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that's going to be one to watch, and it's going to be fun to watch this series going forwards. We are back, we're here, and it was a fantastic effort on all parties to be able to make this happen. But that's not going to be all that we have here on the KBueno Racing Network for this upcoming stretch of days. Tomorrow night we do have the the KBRN Truck Series racing from the Nashville Super Speedway, the Music City action to kick off race number 6 of the season. Could Michael Walls go 4 in a row? Is the main storyline there as he is dominating the season so far. Four Wide Racing TJ's Team Series action continues on Wednesday night from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the second to last race of the regular season. A lot of drivers looking to make their playoff stamp when we get to that time of the season before heading off back to Daytona here a week later and determining our championship 15 playoff driver contention when we do arrive there. Then on Thursday, or excuse me, not on Thursday, but then we come back here next Sunday for the uh, for the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where Kenneth Bueno will be back and joining us in the booth, and he'll be bringing that coverage probably alongside me. Not too sure yet, but I'll try to work that out as best as possible, and we'll be able to bring that coverage to you live here on the KBueno Racing Network. Thank you to everybody who was able to join us here this evening on the KBueno Racing Network. From everybody that helps make this happen, from Kenneth to Keelan Belsha, Charlie Byer, Eli Comerford, JJ Hill, Randy Eggers, to everybody that helps make this happen over and Droppin the Hammer, from Steven Stempy and Warner Cal Keith, Alex Muscarella, and plenty of other admins that help make this league go happen to bring it back and to continue going forward, going into the next season of things. We are so excited to continue going forward and to bring back these Sunday nights with you. Congratulations on Brandon Banks on running a great race and turning up to the victory and taking home the first checkered flag of the 2026 season. We hope to see you out there next week.